So technology.
Yes.
What we're speaking
Technology. Oh my God. So Monday, man, I think this is where we kind of got, it kind of got intense. It kind of got heated because we were talking about the expectations of someone graduating today from college, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to when we got out of school and we're looking for a job.
Yeah.
So, today's generation, where do I want to start? I'll start with me. When I got out of high school, they were telling all the kids to go and become engineers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You talk about lack of foresight. They were telling us to be engineers, and this was before the computer. I graduated in 1993, just to kind of give you guys a time frame.
Man,
This was before that's old because the internet hadn't yet hit. When I got to college my freshman year, this is when Netscape first came out. The first browser, Netscape and AOL was just starting to come out. Wasn't even big yet.
Mail.
Yes. Right. So here I am studying how, to be an engineer when I really should be learning about the computer and about internet and all and programming and all that stuff. So we were taught that, hey, you can still obtain the American dream. All you got to do is go to college, get your degree. When you get out, there will be a job waiting for you and your 2.5 kids and your wife and your nice 2.5 cars and your 2 vacations a year.
Yeah.
It's all set up for you. Go to school, get that degree. Yeah, we know you're going to have some debt, but don't worry about it. There's going to be a job waiting for you. And for me, yes, because there was a job waiting for me because the technology boom happened. But then that died out, right?
Yeah.
It died out. The Bill Clinton era was great. If you were in college or working during the time that Bill Clinton was in office, you made money. Mm-hmm. Bro, I can remember having my pick of 4 jobs.
Yeah.
Just you know what I mean? I could pick which one I wanted to work in. If I didn't like a job, I could quit one day and be at another job the next day. That's how easy it was to get work. Fast forward to this generation and you see the Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
These kids are coming out of school. They have high amounts of debt. They don't have a job to start paying back this debt, and it's not their fault that they have this mentality of where's my job? Where's my pay increase? Hey, I'm not making enough because they were promised these things.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that's the biggest difference between kind of my generation and today's generation is that, hey, the technology boom said you're going to have, the opportunity to do well when you get out of school. And it's a lie. Today, it's a lie. The American dream today is an American nightmare.
Yeah.
And I kind of said Monday, I think it's always been a lie. You just had the internet boom that made, that lie that enabled that lie to continue being sold to our kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that brings a good point. Technology is the biggest difference between our generation growing up and kids' generation, because like you said, information's there. Mm-hmm. It's on the fingertips of kids, and right. It's got pros and cons. It does, just with technology back then versus now, now you can check on your kids through text message. Now you can't call them wherever versus my mom. You could hear for a dead serious dude at least a mile.
At least a mile, huh?
Yeah. It was Christopher. Dude, and I mean, it rang through the neighborhood and people knew, man.
Yeah, you know what was happening, right? When your mom would yell that, other moms would pick up on it and just repeat it so it would get even further.
Jonathan, Danny.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude, I can remember. It's so funny you mentioned that because I can remember being on one side of town.
Yeah. And
somebody that I had no clue who it was sticking their head out the door. Hey, your mom looking for you. Yeah. You're looking at them like, who is dude, who are you? Yeah. You go home and I'm like, did Mr. Smith tell you I was looking for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
How did Mr. Smith know? But that was the technology back then.
Yeah. Parents, and now it's texting. Hey, is my kid? Texting. Hey, where you at? Now you don't even have to text anymore. You You have apps
An app, right?
that you can open up and say, all right, well, she's still at Susie, or at least her phone's still at Susie's.
Right. Oh, but that's
Let me text and see. Okay, yeah,
right.
she's at Susie's.
Right. Yeah, they
So
have apps now that you could send a message to your kid, and if he doesn't answer in 5 minutes, um, I think an alarm goes off on their phone or something like that, or that phone dials the police
yeah,
and gives the location.
yeah,
It's crazy now. I mean, that part of technology to me is great,
yeah.
but the that's one of the pros. But the cons of that technology is that I think we've almost become too dependent upon
Mm-hmm.
it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's kind of the mentality of the workforce of today, right? Isn't that one of the things that we were talking about? That you got people who've come looking for jobs with certain expectations that
Yeah.
we wouldn't have had,
Yeah.
coming looking for work. Tell me a little bit about that.
So
Tell
yeah,
them a little bit about what we were talking about.
yeah. So what we were talking about was basically the word I used was a sense of entitlement for this generation.
Idle man,
So,
yes.
and it just basically it boils down to, um, you know, people who I hire who are younger. I get it that they're younger, but I've had some young guys who work out, and it's because they have our generation's mindset, which I believe our generation's mindset is work hard, be responsible, have morals, push
Ooh,
for something. Like you have to work hard to get where you're going. And whether
right?
that's work hard physically, work hard with your brain, it doesn't matter if you're working hard on a computer versus
Hmm.
nailing and hammer. It's just work hard and have that work ethic that's there. And so I do have 1 out of 20 people that I hire who are in that group, who are in that newer, I just got out of high school, or I just I'm going through college, who do have that mentality. And those are the people that I end up hiring because I know they're going to stick around. I know that they have a platform that they were developed that I can comprehend with and get with because their parents raised them kind of how my parents did, and I'm assuming yours, which was it's all about the work ethic. It's all about putting your head down and working for what you want to get out of life. For
And now,
taking
so right, and so I disagree with you on the mental on this work hard attitude that you say this generation is missing. And the reason I disagree with you is because it goes back to what we were being promised about the American dream and
yeah,
about the advancement of technology, and that each generation is supposed to have live a little bit easier
okay,
than the generation before them. Things are supposed to be a little bit easier until we kind of hit that Star Trek generation where everything's almost automated and everybody's getting along. We're all wearing either red, gold, or green t-shirts
yeah,
and looking the same,
yeah.
right? So I think the generation that comes out today comes out with entitlement is the word I'll use, but
But it's a
it,
wrong. It's entitlement's not the right word.
it's a sense of it's an expectation that why should I have to work as hard as my parents did if technology today makes the work easier?
And that's where you have the generation divide, and the
Yes.
generation divide doesn't just
But are they wrong for thinking like that? I don't want to punish them for trying to live what was promised to them.
no. I mean, it's not, because eventually, as Generation X starts fading,
Yes.
eventually it's gonna be that's what society is gonna accept, is
Right.
that I want to do. And we're gonna get into this because I'm not downing this generation at all. It's two different things.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
didn't this generation war, which we'll call it war for now, didn't start with
This is
X and
why.
Y.
No, it
It
didn't.
started way back when. It's always, every generation has said, why can't kids be like we were? This
It
generation, why can't kids be like we were? And that's what's going to happen here. Is my mentality is, okay, I run a pest control company. My technicians, they have to have a certain quality. They have to be able to speak to people. They have to be
Yes.
able to, they're physically work in different climates, whether that's rain.
Physically work. That's huge.
Yeah, and and this is where I'm getting with this very specific incidents that were around this. You have to be physically able to do work in the cold, the rain, the heat. You have to be able to, get people. You have to be a people person. You have to be out there and talk with people, make people comfortable because you're putting poison in their homes,
Right.
And
Let
then,
me stop you there because I want to jump in and then I will let you finish your point. I want to talk about the physical labor because my parents worked in car factories.
yeah,
That's physical work. I've seen their bodies beat up and broken. Today's kids are being taught not to be manual labor, but to be managers.
yeah,
And so they don't come out knowing how to shovel snow, how to dig ditches,
yeah,
how to, screw rivets or whatever. That's not their mentality. They're not even looking for that type of work. So when you
yeah.
tell them, hey, you got to crawl under this house with this tank and spray this stuff, they looking at you like, man, are you crazy?
And
What you
that,
mean? I gotta punch some numbers on my keyboard and the robot does it? I mean, that's
yeah.
the mentality, right?
And I'm fine with that. If that's what the generation's coming to and that's what society will be down when we fade off, I'm fine with that.
I'm never fading off.
But you'll be here
Ever.
forever. But don't come to me saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. Don't be a yes man. Because if
Okay.
you grew up being raised that way, where your parents' bodies were destroyed because of physical labor and they want a better life for you,
Right.
don't yes man me and then get a job and not want to do the things I clearly listed and said that you had to do. I don't have a problem with these generations and taking over and work being easier. I mean, I don't, but don't
So,
me personally and this job, don't sit here and complain that it's
when
a
you
hard
take the
job
job.
when you knew what it was coming into it. That's what
Man, this
I'm
was
saying. I'm
right,
not,
and we talked about it because you have the Occupy Wall Street movement, and these people, they, bless them, they went on, they protested, but they still didn't get employment. So what do they have to do now? You have to go out and create. You have to create your own business, right?
Mhm.
Become an entrepreneur, or you have to accept the less paying job that doesn't allow you to use your degree.
yeah.
That means you're gonna have to do some manual labor. You know,
And that makes a good point, and I don't want to cut you off, but it's
but you,
those what you're saying
mhm.
is that the generation that we had. I'm going to switch gears here. Our
Okay.
generation versus their generation. I believe without a shadow of a doubt that based on generation gaps that it is harder for this upcoming generation to live and survive and thrive than it is us. And this is why I say this, because back when we were growing up, I didn't need a degree to get 5 jobs that I applied for. I didn't have, it was all about, okay, this guy, he's a good talker and I'm going to give him an opportunity and this is where it is. You didn't have 100 people going for one job
Right.
like you do nowadays with degrees. Which degree's better? Which school's better? Okay, now that that's said, can this guy talk? How's his appearance? So it's not just back then. It was, I believe, our generation. It was different. Kind of growing up. Even whenever I was coming out, it was easy for me to get a house that wasn't so overpriced. It was easy for me to get a job without a college degree.
Right.
It was a lot easier for me to do these things. But now prices are soaring on things like food and necessities. Houses rates are
The
jumping
basics.
way up for no reason at all, just because people want money. These companies
Well,
want money.
let me stop you there. There is a reason. There is a reason why you could get a job and be successful without a degree. During our generation, you could do it because there were still jobs that were yet they had yet the jobs that we could fill and make a good living off of.
Yeah.
They have now been shipped to third world
Yeah.
countries.
A
Let's
lot of them
just be
have.
flat out honest about it. They're
Yeah.
gone. They're gone. Where my parents working for this car factory were getting paid 20, 25 bucks an hour.
Yeah.
Without a degree, that was great money back then.
Yeah.
You know,
And it went a
know,
lot, that money went a lot further.
it went a whole lot further.
Yes.
Those
Because,
jobs today, those people got fired, and they brought in new labor and paid them half of what my parents them used to make, because it was, we need to save money. But the other part is, you sent those I don't want to call them skillless jobs. What's the word I want to use here? Manual labor jobs. I'll say it that way. Overseas to third world countries where you could pay them maybe even a quarter of what you were paying Americans here. And while the jobs disappeared, here the cost of living continued to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Income didn't grow, but the cost of living continued to grow. And so, like some of the people that you've interviewed, they come out, or you just recently hire, and they get their first check and they say, "Hey boss, I know I've been here only a week, but can you give me a raise?"
Yeah, and I do have that. And I have that with those younger people, with that generation. And it's because I get it. They're taught that everybody has self-value, but they're taught, I don't know how they're taught, but I assume from what I see is that it is, don't just take a job as it is, and you have self-worth. And if you think you're worth more, then ask,
Right.
or move on. You know what I mean?
Who taught them that? Right? Doesn't this go all the way back to when the government got involved in raising our kids, right? Because the government said, "Hey, we want you to start expressing yourself more," right? I said the government, but that's kind of a catch-all phrase. I'm talking about the flower generation who grew up to be the experts now in our schools, churches, universities, corporations, and our government.
Running most of it,
Yeah, the people who are running stuff now, they said, "Hey, express yourself. Hey, tell me what's going on. Hey, share how you feel."
Yeah.
Right? We want to know. We care.
Yeah.
We hear you. You have a voice. You have a say. When we were growing up, we were taught, if you're a kid, you don't talk unless you're spoken to, right?
Yeah.
You were happy to get a job. You were yes sir, no sir.
Yeah.
You were stay late, come early. That's the mentality that was beaten in us. It was that walk it off mentality, toughen up. Today, these kids don't. They are doing what they've been taught to do.
Yeah.
Speak up, and if there's an injustice, say something about it.
Yeah, and that works for a lot of things, but I think, me personally, my opinion, which is what we're expressing.
Here we go.
Here
we go.
There's no facts here, and we've cleared that up in our conversation. Right. It's all opinion. And my opinion is that, where I'm at, and if dealing with me, that mentality will not get you that job. And if you're taught to not do that and to value your worth, and that manual labor is beneath you, then don't come to a manual job interview. Then stick to trying to work with Google or Inside or whatever, which is fine. That's great. Because I'm a big fan of I hate the idea that we as a people are forced to work, and this isn't everybody, but majority are forced, average person, to work 5 days at least out of the week, and you only get rewarded 2 off days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then on top of that, I think that's ridiculous. And I'm a big fan of this generation coming up when it has the sense of, hey, work smarter, not harder. And let's chop down 5 days into 3 days, 4 days. Let's balance it out. Why is it all about work? And why can't I have a job that I enjoy?
Yes.
And that I can, essentially not feel like a job, and on top of that, have more days. It's not even more days off. Days off? Come on, man. You don't. I hate the mentality of you have to work to earn days off. That's ridiculous.
Hmm.
I'm a human being. You
Now
know
you
what I
know
mean?
you're bringing out the conspiracy
No,
theory
I'm
guy
just
in me.
saying we're not going to dive into that, but I'm just saying,
We are we were
that is one thing generation wise that has changed is that
it right.
I do like that. I don't like the mentality of, well, I'm a kind of above this, or I don't, I think my self-worth is better than this and that job. Because there are people, you don't have too many people who, when they get in my job, my technician positions,
Hmm.
they don't want to do it anymore because it is too hard. Because
Right.
everything that I explained happened, and
Right.
they don't like it because they thought it was going to be easier than it was.
Chris, I think I'm going to dip into this just a little bit. I think you have that I'm too good for this mentality in every generation.
Yeah,
I think, and that's quote unquote a fact.
yeah,
But what we see today is our generation having more access to information, because of technology, is able to sit back and say, "Hey, wait, I don't want to take part in this slave labor mentality
and I'm
that my
fine with
parents
that,
and grandparents
and
participated in."
I'm
But
fine with
that's a
that.
good thing. Well, that's a good thing because it ties into what you're saying as far
Yes,
as the workplace. If I'm going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week
yes,
outside of my home, good Lord, it needs to be enjoyable.
yeah,
And there needs to be some rewards to it. So I
yes,
need to at least be able to afford the cost of living.
yes,
I need to be able to have breaks. Like some of the new, we talked about some of the new workplaces, the Fortune 500 companies today, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Microsofts, the whoever these technology giants are now. They have a different work environment.
yes,
I work in a cubicle farm. You're
yeah,
not going to find that at these places. You're going to
no,
find quiet rooms. You're going to find that you can get a 30-minute nap and nobody's going to look at you like you're crazy.
yeah,
You're going to find the kids working there with their headset on, or you're going to find them shooting pool or shooting hoops or
yeah,
rollerblading or something like that in the middle of the day. Or you're going to find a nice, beautiful park campus outside of the building because they've figured out that if they provide these employees these things, that the employees will stick around longer, their
absolutely,
bodies won't break down,
yes,
you'll get more out of a well rested,
mm-hmm,
um, refurbished employee, you know what I mean, than you would get out of just grinding somebody to death,
yeah,
um, 50 hours out of the week,
yeah,
and letting them recharge for 2 days. Because two
yeah.
days just don't do it anymore.
No,
And so this generation has figured it out. I think our generation, because it's been beaten to us for
mm-hmm,
so long, we're the ones that are missing out, and we're the ones that's slow to adapt. And I was saying that because I work at a place where the youngest employee at my job now is 36.
yeah,
So there are no college graduates at my company.
yeah. It's not
And
attractive.
it's not attractive, but also the older generation is dying out and retiring.
Yeah,
And there's nobody coming in the pipeline for these positions.
yeah,
And part of the problem is it's a cubicle farm. The other problem is we haven't kept up with technology.
mm-hmm,
So there's nothing attractive about working at my company for this new generation.
yeah. No, and that has and I agree with you in that those companies are doing what we all want to do. We all
Right.
want to be in a good environment. We all want to work, work less and make more money. And I think that's every human being's right to enjoy life instead of spending, I don't know, I'm just throwing
Yes.
out a number, instead of spending 85% of it, making money for someone else. Why can't we do a little work, make some money, enjoy life? Why does it have to be that way, And I like that those companies are moving in that direction, but the problem is that you still have Generation X around, and Generation X,
Hmm.
which is most of the companies out there, are running it in a very particular way and how they're taught and how they want it ran. And so then you have people who are coming in who are growing up as that, oh, I want something attractive and I want this and I want these benefits with, I want a pool pass and somewhere I could, take a nap in a sleep pod, some
Right.
and with cafeterias and stuff. That's fine, but don't come into jobs where you're not going to get that and accept that job.
Right.
If you really want something and you really don't wait for an opportunity, and I've told you this, you have to make opportunity. My opportunity doesn't just come knock. You got to
I like
make it.
I like what you said about you have to make opportunity, because that's what this generation figured out. And what they're going to do is they are going to phase us out. And I think they should. And I
Yeah.
think when they phase us out, if we don't adapt, um the Googles and the Microsofts, these work environments are going to be healthier and they're going to be better
Yeah.
for the generations to come. I think that's the direction that we need to be moving in.
Yeah,
Honestly, I just do.
I do too. You shouldn't have to work that much percentage of your life and
But
enjoy.
it doesn't make them lazy. And that's one of the things I kind of think gets misunderstood or misinterpreted in the constant comparison of, well, this generation
Yeah.
is, they're entitled and they're lazy, they're nothing like us. We
Yeah.
walked to work uphill and back in
Yeah.
snow, blah blah blah. No, 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 no.
Which
One,
is
they were
every
promised.
generation says that.
Yeah, every generation says that. That's one. Two, we promised them that life is going to be easier for you if
Yeah.
you do
Well,
X,
I
Y, and
didn't.
Z.
You did.
Well, we were given that promise by the system,
Yeah, we all
right?
were.
That's now failing us, right?
Yeah.
But three, is that really where we want to be? Shouldn't we be spending more time with family, with
Yeah.
friends,
And
at
that's
home?
that's where I agree with that idea. And it's not, you're right, it's not laziness. It's not.
Mhm.
It's a sense of, hey, listen, I want to enjoy life.
Yes. It's
And
living.
I think that's where we all want to be and need to be, but don't complain because it's not there yet. And I don't think they're lazy in the sense that you got to think, these people are now, like you said, with the promise of college education, that they'll get a fantastic job and a hot wife and two perfect kids and whatever
Right.
else, you
Right.
know, that once they did college and they worked as they're doing college and
Right.
they are taking on these loans and paying these loans off. Now, when
Right.
they worked through college and that degree doesn't pan out, now they have to work on something that they didn't want to do. Now they have to be in, which a lot of kids, a high percentage of college people are out doing retail jobs. They're out doing
They are.
waiting jobs. And it's because they're just trying to now just get by until that opportunity, until that 500 people wanting those three jobs turns into 200 people. And then eventually they work to a point where that one opportunity that they are waiting on comes, when in a sense, and this is where I start now going not against these guys, but in a different direction, they are not lazy and they are working hard. That is a giving and that's a fact right now. They are
Right.
out there doing it because the promise is not there.
They're willing to do the work.
Yes, they're willing to do the work. Now, here's the thing. Here's where I shift gears on it. Don't complain about it and wait for opportunity when you need to really figure out and take a step back and say, okay, I have this college degree. Am I going to sit here and waste it in a retail job? Or am I really going to make an opportunity for myself? What can I do that's different than everybody else that has a college degree to give me an opportunity to use this degree?
Well, here's what I hear you saying. What I hear you saying is, this country has shipped away all of the quote unquote high-paying manual labor jobs to other countries, right? Okay, and so now there's this void of opportunity out there. So now
We shouldn't
you
be
guys,
talking about creating jobs. They should have never been. There shouldn't. Why are we talking about creating jobs?
That's what right, and that's what I think. That's that they have to switch gears. So they came out not thinking that they would have to be entrepreneurs, but what they really are, they're the next Henry Fords. They're the next gosh, I'm running the blank because you catch me on a good day, I can name all these people. They're creating the next big companies. That's the mentality that they have to take on now. The jobs aren't there, but you guys are that new spark now.
Yeah.
You have to create the new jobs and fill the void of jobs that were shipped away.
Yeah.
So you have a choice. You can fall back into the security of the slave labor force mentality and stay in that crappy retail job, or you can say, no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to fill this void of opportunities by creating a company, creating a job. And now, Chris, I turned 40 this year, right?
Super old.
It was a wake up call for me because struggling financially. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Excuse me. Let's take a break, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you about the wake up call I got.
Okay. All right. Cool. Right. Let's take a break.
And I think it's something that my generation can benefit from.
And I said, let's take a break. I don't need you talking when I say take a break.
Okay, we'll be right back. All right, so welcome back to episode 4. We're talking about Generation X versus Generation Y.
And we were talking about we were actually getting into your epiphany, your eye opening.
Right. So, so I turned 40 this year, October, if you guys want to send me a birthday card. It hasn't been 3 months yet, so the window is still open.
Yeah, you still have that dollar pinned on your chest.
Right. If you listen to the second episode, I believe, I think I mentioned the panic attack I had.
Yeah.
Part of that panic attack was bumping up against my financial situation and not having the support that I've had in the past. Yeah. So as I was growing up through high school, through college, and when I first started my family, I could lean on relatives, whether it was my parents or my siblings. I could lean on them to get me through a tight spot. I got into a tight spot and went to lean on them, and there was nobody back there.
Yeah.
And so I fell. There's nobody there to catch me. Thank God for my faith and my friends who they built me up spiritually, mentally.
Yeah.
But still, the financial struggle was there. Yeah. And it's a good thing. And I'm going to tell you why it's a good thing, because it ties into what we were talking about today with the new generation that's coming out of school looking for jobs. They're not the only ones who now have to be entrepreneurs, because we know that the cost of living continues to skyrise.
Yeah.
But our income is not skyrising with it, right?
Yeah.
So I literally had to sit back and say, man, I got to find another source of income besides my steady 9 to 5.
Yeah.
My steady 9 to 5 is there because it's safe, but it also provides my health insurance. And the honest thought behind it is, if I didn't need my health insurance because of the Crohn's and stuff like that,
you'd be a drug dealer. Huh?
What'd you say?
You'd be a drug dealer.
Yeah, I'd definitely be selling drugs, dude. I'd be running my own mafia. But I would take more chances. And when I was younger, I would, again, growing up doing that internet boom, I was able to take more chances. I didn't like a job, I could leave a job, but that's dried up. That's done. That's over with. And that's kind of, while it was good then, it's bad now, because it left me with that mentality of I can job hop, but you can't job hop anymore.
You can't. It's not out there for you.
It's not out there for you, right? So, you're going to take a little bit more crap at work than you would normally take because you can't job hop. But also, if you really want to have the lifestyle that you want, and I'm not talking about living extravagant. I'm not an extravagant person at all, but I'm talking about being able to take a vacation, take my family out, every once in a while, something like that.
Yeah.
You have to kind of find a greater source of income or a second source of income. I'm a one income family. It's one, two, it's four of us.
Mm-hmm.
One income just ain't cutting it. And I make good money,
Yeah.
just being honest with you. But
Yeah.
with
More than I do.
cars, houses, kids in medicine, we're just getting by.
Yeah.
So the epiphany was, hey, you know how to use the internet. You were not a pioneer, but you grew up doing the pioneering of this thing.
Yeah.
Get to work. Don't let this new generation be the only ones that are entrepreneurs. And so that's what I did. I started my own internet company.
Yeah.
And so and I just want to share that with people. If that's kind of the mindset we got to have now.
Yeah.
There is no more safety net out there.
Yeah.
That's gone. It's just gone. And it's not really about, because I had people say, well, man, go out and get a second job.
Yeah.
No. Second job is a Band-Aid, in my opinion, as opposed to using that time to create a company.
Yeah.
Of my own.
And that's that Generation X, Generation Y, because Generation X, which is where we're at, where we're in, is saying, no, man, just get another job. Like, get a second job for yourself. And Generation Y is sitting back, and they are, because of their situation, there's some adapting going on, and there's companies that are springing up, and there's internet companies that are out there, and there's a lot of people are having to get creative, and then they're making their environments exactly like these other companies you mentioned with all the cool perks and all of that. And that's where I think this is going to boil down to, is that Generation X is fading off, and Generation Y, and I think it's almost a necessity that things are happening like they're happening, or change won't happen. All these people with Generation Y, these newer upcomers, they don't have 100 people going for one job is insane, and so they have to adapt to that. They weren't brought up to really have that. All right, I'm going to go out there and manual labor, and that's because their parents taught them, no, you could do better than me. Get an education, do this, and now they're not built like that. Generally, and this is just general. This isn't per person here, but generally, I don't think they're built like that, which also pushes that adaptation that needs to come to, well, I'm not really suited for this. I didn't go to school for this. So now I have to push out of this manual labor job I'm into what I want to do. And so I think it's a necessity, and I think it's kind of going back to kind of what you said at the very beginning of the show when you were on the Save It for the Show segment, that, God has a plan. And I believe that plan is in place, and it's happening, and the struggles are there, and it's there because a change needs to happen. Like, we need to be able to not work so much for the free time we have with our family, our friends. We shouldn't have to do work, 85% of our lives for a little bit of what the country or government or people or society thinks is okay time off, and I think that's what I realized, that what you were saying is you're adapting to that. Your Generation X mentality is adapting to that Y. And
I am, and you mentioned God, and honestly, it really is a leap of faith where, like I said, that safety net of parents, siblings, government incentives and programs is disappearing. And it's honestly, it's a good thing, because if you're a person of faith, now you're truly getting back to relying on God to be your provider every day.
Yeah.
And even there is a level of faith required in me starting a company, because it's a change of mindset, but there's also a level of faith that, man, I can really do this. This can actually turn into something that is going to actually give me the freedom that I desire and the income that I desire. So you have to be able to take a chance, put your faith in the right thing, as opposed to putting my faith in a second job and spending less time with my family, spending less time enjoying, something that's not work. I mean, we're not built to just work,
Yeah.
but here's another point I want to make. I got a kid they'll be college age in 7 years. That's not a long time.
Yeah. So he's like
It's just,
Generation Z.
yeah, but it's just it'll be here before we know it. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm not gonna say I struggle with, but kind of another epiphany is, if he asked me, should he or shouldn't he go to college, my answer would be this: if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, professions that require a higher education, I would say definitely go.
Yeah.
But if you want to study history, Western lit, some of these jobs that we used to go because we had a passion for it,
Yeah.
or a love for it, English, history, whatever. If you're not going to be a teacher's another one I say you have to go to school and get a degree for. I would tell them in a heartbeat, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't go to school and incur the debt. If somebody's going to pay for your college full ride, go for it.
Yeah.
If not, don't waste your time, because the system is now set up for you to come out of school in debt,
Yeah.
owing somebody, meaning that you have to take part in the slave labor mentality, right? Because we know the jobs aren't there.
Yeah.
So instead, you live in the information age. You have access to information that I would have had to go to a library and open a book for. You can type up a keyword and be infinitely more intelligent or you're more knowledgeable than I could ever be. Use that resource.
Yeah.
Don't give a college $40,000 a year when you have the internet at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You can learn the same thing. And that's where I think we're going. And so for me, as I make this change from being a Generation Xer to a Generation Yer, as an entrepreneur, I'm teaching my kids that you're not going to grow up to be slave labor. You're going to grow up to be an owner, not an employee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to grow up to be a creator, and not make somebody else money, but you're going to make your own money and be independent of the system. That's what I would teach kids today. And I would tell that to the audience that's listening. It's going to be scary, but you have to take that leap of faith. You have to break this sadistic cycle that we are all caught in as a nation, as a world. There's a debt crisis now, a student loan debt crisis for my generation, because there's no jobs to pay it back.
Yeah.
And if I look at my job today versus the investment, the student loan investment, no way. The work I do today, and I'm just talking about me, I didn't need a degree to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just did. And it's a bad investment for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel that way. If you want to study the arts and get your entertainment, you don't need to go to school or do it no more.
Yeah.
You just don't. And I would tell you don't.
Yeah, and that's today's mentality is Generation X to Y. It's all, college is not about teaching you something you can use in the future. Now it's just purely based, it's a business, and it's all about raking in that money. And guess what? This school up their money. Well, we're gonna up ours too, because we're not gonna get pushed into that. They're making money on the same programs we are, but we have A, B, and C programs that they don't have. So now ours goes up, and you're just in this cycle where it's no longer like it used to be back in the day, where you didn't have to spend this much money to have a good education and use a degree that you could actually, there was a job for. Now it's so much money, for this Generation Y to even get into college, and now the jobs are gone. So when you get that degree, you're hoping, because everybody tells you, oh, dude, you're so talented at this, you're so that. Well, guess what? 1,000 other people in your area were told the same thing. and now
Yeah.
you're
And then
all fighting for these couple of positions which
yeah.
aren't there, and now college is making their money. You
Everybody's paid, bro. Look, the colleges made their money. The banks have made their money off your student loan for the next 20 years, which is what it's going to take you to pay it off.
Yeah.
You're going to pay 20 grand for a loan and end up paying 40 back by the time you're done,
Yep.
right? And here, but that's the lie. The lie is, I'm not going to say the lie, but that's the system. It's a pay to play system, right? Because if you go out to a job, what do all jobs require? You got to have a degree.
Yeah.
You got to have a degree. You got to have a degree because it's all conspiracy theory akimbo is coming out. It's all tied together.
Yeah.
Right? We want you in debt. We want you part of our system, part of
Yeah.
our slave network. So the companies, these jobs say, if you don't have a degree, you can't come work for us.
Yeah.
So what you need to tell them is, fine, I'm
Yeah.
not going in debt just so I can work off that debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you need to say is, I'll find another way.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
the scary. That's the scariest. To me, it's scary because of what I was taught growing up, but I think it's scary because of the promise that was made to both X and Y generation.
Yeah.
But if I could tell you guys anything is, you don't have to pay to play anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't. Take
No.
your ball and go home. Create your own game.
Yeah,
That's what I would say. That's how I would even, I would want to leave this show at that. Take your ball and go home. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it's because, like you said, you've gotten a degree, and you've had to get that loan to that degree. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's a part of your life that is essentially gonna drag you down because you got to pay that debt off, and if you don't have that job, you're in a bad situation. Now, my
It's the
mindset
trap.
was, okay, listen, I'm going to do what I wanted to do, and I'm going to join the military. And I'm going to get the military, and you know why? Because it was the idea of college and not paying for it. So I get in there, go do my time, get out. College is there. The programs are there, but I choose not to bother with unemployment. I could technically, because my job ended, I could be on unemployment for 1 or 2 years or whatever it is, and then just drag that out, and I could go to school. And for me, I thought about it, and that just wasn't my style. It was, okay, I got out on a Friday. I made my move on Saturday, Sunday, and I went to my new job on Monday. I didn't get time off because I was grown up as Generation X to, you have to
Get out there and make that hustle.
work. And so I did. I tried my hand at a couple of jobs, decided that, you know what, I decided that I was going to put off college, and then decided I wasn't going to go to college at all. Because, I during my course of a couple of jobs I went through, I kind of had that mentality. And this is why earlier I said I feel like we're kind of in between sometimes too. Because my mentality is, I feel that I shouldn't have to do this or work that much. But Generation X comes out in me, and what I was growing up, which is, you know what? Suck it up. Stop thinking like that.
Ooh,
and
walk it off.
And get in there and do what you got to do. And so for me, I got a great job that I started from the bottom, which is what Generation X tells you.
You were down there with Drake. Okay.
Start at the bottom. Now we're here. Which
Now
isn't
you're here.
actually here, which is actually kind of, you're looking at me.
Well,
it's
let
kind of
me
more
ask you
down
this:
here.
Would you do some things differently?
No.
You wouldn't do anything differently.
Nope.
You still go to the service, and you still take the same path you take.
Yes.
You're looking back.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And here's the reason why, is because even though I'm Generation X, I believe in Generation Y, and I think that Generation Y, even though it's always going to have that clash of generations,
Right.
I think it's a very necessary thing to it's unfortunate that this money's there, this debt's there, and their jobs aren't there for them. But I think they're gonna adapt, and most of these Y generations will adapt and will bring on a new form of work and a new
Yes.
workforce. And
Right.
that's kind of how I feel like where I'm at is my Generation X blends with the new mindset of some of these guys, which is, okay, I did what X wanted me to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
started from the bottom, and I worked
Right.
my way in there,
Right.
and I put myself in a position to get into where I was, which is now managing this company. And
Right.
it's a very unique situation, but
Right.
just based on pure Generation X, it was okay. I started at the bottom. Now here's my opportunity. Here's the opportunity that I'm going to make right now. I'm going to take this step
Right.
in, and I know I heard something and I want to kick open the door, and I just made an opportunity where there wasn't one. I wasn't asked at all if I wanted the position.
No, no, yeah, your story is a great one. Your
I
story
had to
is,
I
yeah,
had to make that, and it
right.
was just based on the opportunity wasn't there. I had to
Mhm.
physically kick open the door and make it. And
Right.
so that's that Generation X where I have that mentality and that passion and that responsibility and the work ethic. And now running this business, now I look for generation because it's a more physical type job. It
Right.
doesn't take a rocket scientist to know how to do pest control. It just takes
Okay.
someone who is an average person who can think, and who can get through these climates and get through these days.
But you still need to be able to talk to customers. So it
Yeah,
does take
yeah,
some skills.
yeah. What we talked about earlier,
Right.
and but what comes knocking is Generation Y thinking, which is okay. I like the position I'm in because there's a lot of things I can be very flexible with in my position. And
Right.
it gives me an opportunity to where I could easily go off and have a different job, do half of what I do now, and make a ton of more money, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I kind of have that why mentality, which is I feel like I'm fighting the owner, which is Generation X, which I am
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm trying to implement Generation Y mentality and say, okay, there's better ways we can do this and
Yes.
still make you money, but we could do it a different way. And so that's where and I think that's where Generation Y and X is you have, when you talk about generation to generation, you have the older generation always saying, "Oh, these youngins don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This we've never did that. It's not going to
Right.
work." And you
Right.
have the Y generation that eventually, because X starts dying off and retiring, and getting to the point where technology and how society is, where Y comes in, and now those changes really start. And right where we're
I
at,
see him.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's the war that's going on is
Yeah.
Y's pushing in, X doesn't like it, and so
Yep.
now you have that clash, which really shouldn't be there, which is kind of it's kind of ironic that we're talking about it because it's more than just at this point how did X grow up and how did Y grow up. Now we're talking about why can't Y and X work together?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we break the mold if our society is advancing to where it is and the technology's there? Why is the mindset still old school? Why is it still our generation is the better one than this generation? Generations Y is why aren't these guys understanding that we're the new generation? This is better. And then it's always who's better than who in a pissing contest versus
Right.
let's get on the same page and see where we could go with this.
Yeah. I think you summed that up great, and I think this is a good place to end the show. I think that there has to be a blending of the two generations as opposed to a versus X versus Y in order for there to be some true progress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that we saw a little bit of that under President Clinton. Then I think we took a step back under President Bush. We were promised to start moving again forward with President Obama, but I don't think we've made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
And so as a new president is about to come in, our mentality, like you said, has to be one of moving forward.
Yeah.
And let's leave it there. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah.
Because I think some of next week's topic will build off of this week's show for next week's topic. And so what we want to talk about next week is the perception of conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot that's happened this week, within the last week. Of course, the thing that happened in Paris and where that's leading us. Are we in World War III already? Are we headed in that direction? I want to get into the people who say we are, the people that say we aren't, and just the whole perception of a conspiracy theory. What's the truth? The truth is out there, but what is it? Who has it? Who knows it?
Yeah.
Are these people, are they too far to the left, too far to the right?
Are there alligators in the sewers in New York? I don't think, have we ever answered that? Is that still a conspiracy
There's a whole
theory?
movie about those. But yeah, let's wrap it up, and then next week we'll talk about the perception of conspiracy theories, and I think we'll kind of build off some of the stuff we talked about today.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our two-parter.
You can do the housekeeping.
Our two-parter. See, you just threw me off. See, you got to interrupt me.
Generation X versus Generation Y.
Thank you for listening to our two-parter. I think we did a good thing here. I hope so. I think we did, and I think a lot of people are going to agree and disagree and stay on both sides. You're always going to have that, but I think it's out there, and hopefully our podcast, this episode, will change the world. I think it will.
Yeah, I think we just saved the world, actually.
Yeah, so Facebook, if you have any comments or any suggestions on new shows, or you just want to ask either one of us questions that are raw and personal, we can answer those on Facebook. Just search for Fantasy Friends Podcast. You can always shoot us questions over Twitter, and that is, it's actually about to change. Right now, it's Magellan and Merck at FanFryPod. Okay, so we're gonna change that to Fantasy Friends at FanFryPod. So if you can't find one, the other's there. But just know it's at FanFryPod. FAN. Wait.
Sounds so good. Did I get an egg roll with that? I know, same tired joke, right? Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. Have a good evening.
Peace.
Good day. Or whenever you're listening to this. Stop recording.
Stop recording.
Stop it.
Stop recording.